episode 54 of the podcast. This week we're talking about standing still and how we can build standing still by allowing some wiggling.
You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Neumeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, certified behavior consultant for canines, certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is where grooming and training meet.
I'm starting off with an example for this week of a little Maltese that I groom. He's a pretty typical wiggly guy. His mom does a great job of brushing him. Their college-age daughter is good at keeping up with keeping his eyes clean. I guess she's the only one who can really has the patience and isn't worried about poking him in the eye. But they have me come and groom him just when he's ready for a full trim. So I groom him about once every 3 months. So we're a little bit behind on teaching him, but nothing to write home about. Not a big problem. Oh, and along with being, a Maltese who is small and fragile, he also has a collapsing trachea. So there's another concern there. If he gets a little bit too worked up, he can start coughing. If I were to insist that he remains standing and still for the entire groom, I would be setting up to fail and making the process much more frustrating for both of us. And I want you to be thinking about that's frustrating for both of us, for the dog and for me. Because you know what? He's just not mentally mature enough for holding still for a long duration yet. But that's the part I want to point out. Yet. He will be able to. We'll get there. So how do we work toward the ultimate goal of him being a nice, upstanding guy? Yeah, you heard that right. Upstanding. I know, I'm a dork. But anyway, how do we work toward a dog who can be still and build some of that as his maturity builds? So I work a balance of short periods of still and short periods of being his buddy. And we got into working with dogs because we like dogs, right? Letting him get his wiggles out, but on my terms. So I encourage wiggling instead of waiting for him to lose focus. I can initiate it as a reward for being still, as a break from the effort of holding still, because holding still is tiring. So if he's holding still for me and I end that and, maybe start making like a little kissy noises or something, you have to gauge it to the dog in front of you what is silly and wiggly, a little bit of silly and wiggly without totally losing their focus or letting them think that grooming is over. But then we can return to still and like, okay, now I need to get this. Good job, buddy. It's sort of like going from serious to silly, and building his endurance for serious because I'm choosing how long we ask to do it, and he's not ending it on his own. I'm trying to keep him from becoming frustrated enough that he can't handle what I'm asking him to do. So I let him get his wiggles out on my terms and encourage it instead of waiting for him to lose focus. And as a break from the effort of holding still, having someone work on you for an extended amount of time without being silly or affectionate or playful is really weird for most dogs. And sometimes we are so friggin' serious, we're just a total buzzkill. So don't be a buzzkill, be a buddy. And what I mean by that is be thinking about the times that you really need him to be totally still and work on those and help him relax for it. And you can be relaxed for it without necessarily being your face all scrunched up and being all super laser focused. Have you ever looked at yourself when you're really trying to get something done? Sometimes our faces are all crunched up and doing something weird, right? I know I do it. I know I do. So I think sometimes I have to balance that out with when it's done, like, yeah, nice job, right? So sometimes I actually spend time teaching like my focus face. I'm really intent on this face because then the dog is learning like, oh, that's not a big thing because she's going to reward me in a second for being still. But we don't need treats for that. If you think about like just a chance to wiggle a little, right? And also think about how hard it is to hold still. Have any of you guys had to just hold still for something? Just standing, not sitting. Even sitting, holding perfectly still is kind of tough, but standing and holding still. If you've done like stage acting, sometimes there's a point where, they just want everyone in a scene to be in the background and people are holding still. Military drills, people holding perfectly still. You practice that. That's really hard. It's not something you just like come in off the street and you're a pro at, right? And I think our dogs have trouble with it. Most dogs are going to have a little bit of trouble staying perfectly still. Their muscles aren't used to doing it. So I want you to think about that wiggly dog, the kind of ways we can work around it. I can do so much while he's sitting. If he wants to sit down, there's a lot I can work on. That's when I tend to do like a lot of front leg stuff, right? Or brushing tails. I want you to be thinking about the ways we can work around a dog when it's less than ideal, but they are still learning. And I can work when he has his paws on my shoulder, which is something that this little guy does a lot of. Um, I'm down low working with him and he's getting his paws up on my shoulder. You know what? If that helps him feel like he's having a break while I'm working on him, right? With paws on the shoulder, I have a couple of dogs that do that. They put their paws up on my shoulder. I can get the sanitary area. I can get into their flank and any sort of little mats there. I can brush those out. I can scissor back legs. Not entirely, but you know what I mean? There's scissoring work I can do on the back legs. There's a lot that I can do. Sometimes I can even get armpits that way if they've got their little paws up on my shoulder, right? I want you to think about the ways that we can adjust what we do to help them feel like they're getting a break, right? And he thinks he's getting a break. So maybe I'm brushing his tail while he's got his paws up on my shoulder, right? That's a win-win. If he thinks he's getting a break while I'm brushing his tail, score, right? Right? So I can work around his need for breaks and I can give him some true breaks. Now, his mom was telling me that she sometimes watches grooming videos and was wondering if her pup would ever be that still for grooming. So I started bringing it to her attention every time he was being perfectly still for me, showing her the calm parts, showing her what I was doing. And I love that my customers take an interest because I was able to show her the difference from the beginning of the session to the end of the session, like improvement during this grooming. Because I allow some silly, because I encourage some silly. And then I collect him again, collect his little brain, help him be calm, right? So for her to see that through a grooming session was really interesting because she's now watching going, right, yeah. And he's so much better than he has been. Each time he gets better, you know, and he's a sweet little guy anyway. It's not like he has a mean bone in his body, but wiggling and tiny and fragile and a trachea problem, right? So I wanted her to see that he's not out of control. I am allowing wiggling and I'm putting it on my terms. Like I don't let him get frustrated with being still. I don't let him get to a point where he's like, oh, I can't take it anymore. Because we want him to enjoy parts of this. And I'm his buddy, right? I'm going to say be careful about when you're being a buddy and being silly, not letting the dog get too crazy. That can be really disruptive. Read the dog on your table. Figure out what that dog needs to feel like they're having a break. Okay? Because we don't want them to be like, done, I'm out of here. If I let too much silly happen, we're not getting his attention back. But a little bit, you know, I know that there are always risks when we're up against dogs' faces and stuff, but I want you to think about a lot of these dogs, right? A lot of these little dogs, I'm kissing them. I'm giving kisses, right? This is just part of grooming. I think a lot of trainers don't necessarily understand that there's a lot of that happens. Like, like, good boy. Okay, now we gotta be still again. Are you ready? Still. Let's get this. And good boy. Guy, oh my god, you're so cute, right? And even just the balance between those two for a lot of dogs is like, oh, okay, I can handle being still when you ask me to, because I know it's gonna be over. Still isn't gonna last forever. She always lets me off the hook. So that's really what I want you guys to be thinking about. That by putting silly on cue for us means that we're letting him off the hook for being still. Still doesn't mean be still the entire freaking time, you know? Eventually it will, but you know what? He's emotionally building the ability to be able to do that. And he's a young Maltese, I think at this point he's about a year and a half old, right? So he's young, he's silly, and, most of his groomings are done by his family. So I don't see him as often as I would if he were just a regular grooming customer. But he can handle so much more even now than he could before. And I have a customer who understands why we're working on it that way, right? So I want you to think about um, don't have to go really overboard, but you do have to kind of give them little breaks. And you can set the mood, right? So if you think about it as a mood and some soap opera acting, right? Really, really make it obvious. you know, uh, when you think about soap opera acting, like they even add in music if someone is like suddenly serious and they stare out the window, right? Like really, really bad, obvious acting. But that's okay. It helps our dogs understand what we're doing. So if I need still and I'm like, right? Suddenly I'm much slower and a big deep breath and a quiet voice and just relax, buddy. Yep, now your scissors right here. Hey, good job. That was good. And the back and forth with that, like good job, that was good, means that I'm off the hook. I have completed something. So even just the way that we talk to them can be a reward, letting them off the hook for the behavior that they were just doing. Like, okay, as soon as you've been still for a certain amount of time, and we can make that still shorter or longer, right? Decide what's best for the dog in front of you today, right? Every time that we see a dog, it's a different day, right? Maybe they're at a different age, a different developmental phase. But be thinking about today. What does that dog need from you? And what can that dog handle? Because if we're setting them up to get it right, then we're also setting them up to like it more. I've mentioned before, I don't think dogs are ever gonna, I don't think it's a reasonable expectation for dogs to love grooming. All dogs to love grooming. Some dogs love grooming. Some dogs accept grooming and they're calm, comfortable, and cooperative, and that is good enough. And then other dogs kind of see us as going to the dentist. Like, oh, all right. But, I trust my groomer. Much like I trust my dentist. I don't crave going, but you know what? I'm safe with them. I like them. I can't imagine going to a different dentist because they've been great to me, right? So if we think about helping that individual have the best grooming session they can have and giving them little breaks, right? You need to think about being successful for the next bit of still. And it changes over the course of a grooming. So I don't want you to think about successes each grooming getting better. I want you to start thinking about successes as each grooming session seeing some success. So this little dog, by the end of that session, not that he was exhausted, because exhausted would actually make him more wiggly. I know him, his brain falls apart when he's tired. But he was standing, and because of his trachea problem, I'm trying to teach him to not use a loop. This was the first grooming with no loop at all. Usually I have it looped over one of his legs and over his head so that we're not touching his trachea. This was his first grooming with no loop, just on the table with me, hanging out. And by the end of that grooming, I was showing his mom, he was holding still, standing straight, and letting me scissor him. Just like the show dogs that she's seen on videos, right? He just can't do it very long, and he needs encouragement, and he needs wiggle breaks. If you're enjoying my podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Why is standing so hard? So we're always asking dogs to stand on our table. Why is it so hard? Because it seems like this would be super easy. They aren't even moving, right? But is standing a lack of movement? Is it a lack of effort? And no, it's not. So I want you to think that some muscles are being used in holding body weight, and they're being held still, which is a continuous flex or a continuous loosen, right? The core is engaged because they're standing on all fours and their core has to be engaged for their legs to be under them for that long. Most dogs don't do much standing still. And when they do, you're going to find that they have like one leg back. They aren't totally square. Their bodies aren't used to it. And their muscle strength training to be comfortable in that pose for a long time. They don't have that kind of training. Most of them aren't used to holding still for a long time. Now, most groomers are on their feet all day, but are you standing still? You might think that you're standing all day, but are you really? Are you standing tall? Are you standing straight? And are you standing still? Because I know that when I find myself in a situation where I'm standing still, I wiggle. Like I rock a little bit back from foot to foot. Sometimes I lean into one hip. I lean on stuff if at all possible. I know I'm a leaner. So, I'm the dog that would be up against the edge of the tub. So I have to make an effort to stand still, tall, and square. And I find that one hip gets tired. So I want you to be thinking about that. Like, there's more to it than just stop moving, right? And I find that if I'm trying to stand still, I constantly readjust. I find that my head starts to turn, or I'm focusing on something, or my hip starts to twirl out, or a shoulder's a little bit different. I want you to be thinking about all those things. And this week's action step is to stand still and tall and square for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I want you to observe how it feels. Do you have trouble staying straight? Do you find it tiring? Is it a simple lack of movement? Because I think you're going to find that it is not. And I think that it's going to make it a little bit more intuitive for you when a dog needs a break, when a dog needs a little bit of wiggle time, when a dog can't handle staying still for the thing that you wanted them to stay still for. If you'd like to talk to me, you can find me through my grooming and training business, happycrittersdogtraining.com, my email, chrissy@happycritters.net, and through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook page. And we have these awesome devices in our pockets that allow us to do live video with each other. I can help you with the dog on your table. We can set up live lessons, and you may be surprised at how much we can get accomplished together via video. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional Certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist Diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.